Here we go. Let's start. This is episode 319 of No Laugh Track Podcast. This is Justin Severson. I'm the host. We're here at Acme Comedy Company in Minneapolis because this is their podcast, and I am the host. My guest this week is Dwight Slade.
Hello.
Hello, Dwight.
Greetings.
You, let's see, how long has it been? 2 years?
It's been 3.
3?
I don't know how that happened, but
What the heck?
yeah.
What have you been doing?
2015. Just a lot of work and just busy. I moved, and that was upsetting. Just because I had lived in the same place for 18 years.
Yeah, I was looking on your website and I saw your post on that.
Yeah, and
let's start right there. We got a lot of things to talk about today. Let's start right there. You moved from Portland.
Yeah, I was living in Portland, Oregon. I moved there in '83. I was living in Los Angeles doing open mics, trying to get make my way up the Los Angeles ladder. And I went to Portland, and it was just this real hotbed of comedy from the '80s, and with 6 open mics and a real supportive group of comedians. So I moved up there, and I just wound up staying there for 18 years. And then, in the meantime, families change and possessions change. My kids grew up, and the basement was just an absolute. It was just crammed with stuff from family members who had died to my kids' old toys.
Yeah.
And, it was borderline hoarders down in my basement. And trying to drag all that stuff out and put it into a moving van and, taking loads of it to Goodwill.
Yeah.
They didn't want to take it. They looked at me, they saw me coming. They're like, no, we don't need this at all. It's a Pocahontas doll from 2002. We don't need it.
No. We've actually found this to be politically incorrect.
Yes. And but it's very cathartic. It's very purifying to go through that experience.
I bet. I'm sort of I have no plans of moving from where I live now. Not
well,
because
actually,
it's so
we
great.
wanted to speak to you about that.
Oh, what do you know? I have no plans of moving. Not because I love it so much, but it's just moving sucks, and I don't need to. However, I do have way too much crap, and I've been making, in the last 4 months, I've made probably 4 trips with the back of my vehicle full of bags to thrift stores to donate.
Great.
Yeah, it's some of it's easy to get rid of, and others I have a really hard time.
Well, there's this element of severe guilt that we live in a society where it's like one of the problems is too much stuff.
Yeah.
As
we're talking about in December, where we're about to give people shower our loved ones with gifts and whatnot, right?
Yeah, and useless stuff.
Yeah.
And you're actually shopping for stuff. You're stopping at Ross Dress for Less and that pile of things for men. You're like, well, I think he needs a poker kit. I think my brother would like a poker kit.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't buy them.
No, he has 3 he's never used. You just don't ever see him because he never uses them.
Right, he doesn't play poker. He never has. That's ridiculous.
That's right.
So I think it's called affluenza. That's the term that I heard years ago.
What is this?
It's affluency. It's the disease of affluency. It's affluenza. And it's when you have too much stuff.
Okay, yeah. Uh-huh.
And I'm a big proponent of it. I mean, of making people aware of it. So I have asked, this is what my new thing is if people want to know what I want, I say, give me plants. I want everyone who wants to give me a gift to make it a plant. And I want my house to be full of plants. There's no lose in this situation.
Yeah.
Because if they die, it's like, well, there's always one behind them.
That's true.
So
I
encourage people to do that.
We've done a new thing where we're giving, actually, it's so new, it's the first year we've done it. We're skipping giving gifts to, like, my wife and I and the kids. They're getting nothing from us on Christmas Day.
Well, except an education about what life is like.
Yeah, right.
Open that up, it's empty. See? See?
No, we booked a family vacation. We're going to do family vacation.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Early next year.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why you're doing it to Ohio, but maybe Orlando. Have you heard of that?
None of us have been to Ohio. I hear great things. Mm-hmm. It's funny you said Orlando. That is where we're going.
Of course.
Not Disney, though. We're skipping Disney.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. We've all been separately.
Okay.
So we're skipping Disney and doing other stuff.
Yeah.
Dana Gould was here. First of all, remind me, your children, they're grown up now. And
They're grown.
Is it 2?
I have 2 kids.
Yeah.
My daughter turned 30 this year, and she was like, I feel so old. Oh, really? You do? I don't know anything about that.
Compared to what?
Yes. Try having a 30-year-old daughter. What that feels like.
So it's a daughter and a son? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I have 2 daughters. Dana Gould was here within the last month or so.
And you adopted him.
And no, other way around. I'm now his son.
Okay.
Yeah. Looking forward to the gifts in a couple of weeks from him.
Good.
No, we started talking about a little bit about kids, and he brought up about. He said, Matt Groening once, I love his name drops because he knows all these crazy famous people. He's like, Matt Groening once said to me, awesome name drop, that, the most important thing being a parent is to take as many pictures and video when they're young as possible. And as soon as he said that, the first thing that popped in my head is, we did that. I can't watch it because when I watch it, I get so sad.
Right.
How about you?
I would disagree with that. I don't think you should take that many of them. Because exactly what it is. I have piles of VHS tapes. What am I going to do with them? I don't even have a VHS player.
Well, there's that, yeah.
And then I was like, you can always take them into digital. It's like, I don't want to spend that time. That's hours. And it's expensive.
Yeah.
And, so I'm not sure about that. I think just going on your memory, and sometimes... especially if you have multiple marriages, there's always, landmines that you step on, and I remember that situation.
Well, I
don't
know if you remember, but I have an ex-wife, that I have, that the kids are.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can relate to that really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, landmines is a good way to put that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons I moved, was because I'd been there for so long that every turn I made in the car was like, remember that gig? That was horrible. Oh, God. That was a horrible relationship. Oh, that was a bad. And I was like, this is just, everywhere you go is a bad memory. I wanted to get out of that. So
sure.
I went to a city where I've really never been to. So.
And where did you move?
We moved to Boise, Idaho.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long has this been?
It's part of my Descending the Show Business Ladder tour.
Yeah, what's next?
Dwight, here he is from Twin Falls. No.
It's an unincorporated town. It's not even on maps.
Right. You been to Montana? Well, come along. There's a comedy club that houses one. But, no, my wife got a job there, and... her family's there, so.
Oh, okay.
And it has a fairly decent airport, so that's kind of what I need.
You do, yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
The early on in the transition, how's it going?
It's going okay. I find that where we live is very quiet, and I realize I hadn't had that for a lot of years, and I like it. I like being quiet. Like some land? You got a little land and everything? No land, just a very, very quiet suburban neighborhood.
Okay.
With, I don't know my neighbors, because you don't know your neighbors in the suburbs. You just look at them through your mini blinds. What's that guy doing over there?
That's right.
Yeah, making his lawn. Yeah, sure. Make his roses over there. Oh, he's looking.
He's not even going to rake? Just mowing them is good enough? Sure. Good luck.
Yeah, that's all you are in the suburbs, are these paranoid eyes glaring at each other through mini blinds. Car door slams at 4 in the morning. What the heck is going on over here at 4 in the morning over here? Someone's getting home for an all-night bender. I think that's a dead body in his trunk. Could be golf clubs, but I think it's a dead body.
I saw that, I did see that you were moving, or that you had moved to Boise, Idaho. And, Idaho's like one of the fastest growing population-wise in the country. Have you seen that?
Very true. Very true.
What do you know about that? Why? Why are people going there?
Boise has the luxury of taking inspiration from Seattle and Portland and not making the mistakes that they made in Seattle and Portland.
Oh, for example?
Just, certain levels of, construction and understanding what to do with traffic and in that kind of situation. And there's a burgeoning comedy scene there, and there's also a lot of good food and a lot of horse husbandry, which I've always secretly enjoyed.
What?
No, I'm kidding.
What? I'm like, is there? I learned a term this week I don't think I've ever heard. It was freezing fog. to describe the upcoming weather, which I don't think we ever had. Freezing fog. I don't remember ever hearing.
Yeah, they're making things up
freezing
now.
fog, and I just thought, did you just mention another thing I don't know about?
Yeah. Or they've broadened the index from heat index over into the cold index.
Yeah.
And it's like you're just making this stuff up.
No, that's the pessimistic view.
Yeah.
Right. Cold index. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, here we are in Minneapolis, and I ran out of chapstick last night and was admitted to the ER. Because if you spend 5 minutes without chapstick in this town, you're literally on the ground with people pulmonary resuscitation.
I know.
Because you can die of chapism.
Uh-huh.
You can just be chapped out, and people will just walk right over your body, trying to get your cherry classic onto your lips. Terrifying.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's similar to spending a weekend in the desert. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a month.
I'm so thirsty. My lips are so dry.
I've had someone give me red cherry classic, please. Anybody?
How's the week gone so far? Today's Thursday. I saw Nick Swartzen will drop in.
Nick Swartzen did a set, and last night Tim Harmiston did a set. It was really
no kidding.
Inspirational to see those guys. It's just brilliant.
Awesome.
And two other acts, Steve and Robert, are just hilarious.
Yeah, I see Steve Gillespie and Robert Burrill working with you this week.
It always takes me a little bit to get used to the caliber of comedy here, and I feel a little bit intimidated when you come to this club. And
not anymore. You've been coming for years.
I know that, but I feel a little bit intimidated by the talent level here and the tradition it has, and owning up to the tradition of the room. And but that's what's great about having a Tuesday, Wednesday show is you work that out, and then you're like, oh, I remember what this is like. You can take chances. You can go out on a limb.
Yeah.
You can. So I've been trying out some new stuff, and it's always just really wonderful.
Okay.
Such a joy.
How where have you been working recently?
I've been doing a lot of those cruise ships.
You are, okay.
Yeah, and they've been real good. They've filled my schedule and given me something I've never had, which is security.
Right.
And comics don't get that because you look at your schedule and you go, oh, it's 2 months away, and I have nothing on the calendar.
Yeah.
And so that's helped out a little bit. And I've learned that I really like these ships. People are in good moods, and you can sort of work your way around where it's a real comedy club.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last time, and I guess you kind of learn which ones are the good ones, and right. Yeah. Have you visited any exotic places recently that are?
I always like they send me to the Caribbean quite a bit, and I'm always amazed. The ship will park, and on the left side is like this beach that has a Margaritaville theme to it, and there's loud music, and there's just people are crammed there, and then to the other side is this empty beach of people, like 4 people walking. And you go over there, and pretty soon you're at a beach where there's no footprints. There's just this sand and this beautiful, and it's like 15 minutes away. Why would you go
to the crowded place?
Yeah, the Margaritaville place, and when it's so, people have a different vision of what going on vacation is than I do.
Yeah. No, I think you got it right with the more laid back one.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. That's the topless beach you're talking about, right?
That's right. Unfortunately, I'm the only one there.
It's the bottomless beach. I want to get your thoughts on this. I saw this tweet from a guy. I apologize, JP McDade. I'm not familiar with your work.
Just a fan.
But he's a comedian, I learned from Twitter, and this tweet he had got some attention last night. I want your opinion. He says, his is his suggestion. How about a reverse Last Comic Standing, where lesser-known comics critique rich and famous headliners? Thinks it'd be a very good show. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah?
That's great. Especially if you could take the producer level out of it and the network level out of it, and so that the network's not guiding the contest.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And so, except if you're successful at comedy, you probably would never enter.
No, that's true. That's true. It would have to be like a prize that goes to charity or something. Really, pull on those strings and somebody. Yeah.
Well, what do you have you watched? I have not watched a lot of Netflix comedy specials. Have you?
A lot. It's hard to answer that because there's so many. So I don't know what a large percentage. Definitely not. Do I watch them? Yeah. Probably a few a month. I would say probably 2 a month. I can try to get to.
Yeah.
I'd like to get to more. That's not always easy. My wife and I don't always agree on which ones to watch.
I think that someone can make a lot of money as a binge-watching therapist about how to get couples onto a show that they can both enjoy. Because we're just polar opposites. We're very close as a couple, but when it comes to watching television, we are light years away from each other. And we can't find that one show that's like, okay, we can binge-watch this. And
have you been sucked into any like shows that she's been into, and you're like, "There's no way," and then suddenly you're like, "Oh my god, well, I can't." I'm looking forward to next week or the next episode. How did this happen?
What Handmaid's Tale we got into, but that becomes one that's like you have to really pick when you're going to watch it. You can't do it before bed because you'll dream horrible dreams.
Okay.
You can't do it during dinner. You can't bring food over there because it'll be like, oh, there's been a crucifixion. That's appetizing. And
pass the peas.
That's right. And so you have to plan it. It's like we've got Handmaids at 2:40 in the afternoon. That's all we can do. So clear your schedule. So that's a challenge.
I've never watched that one. But yeah, I agree with you. That would be a good job for someone to recommend those. But as far as the Netflix specials, yeah, I pick and choose. Sometimes I'm more likely to watch one from someone who I'm already a fan of than to watch one just to feel this person out and see if I like their stuff.
Well, it's a risk for me to offer opinions because I'm a different era of stand-up. But in my era of stand-up, and it's been hard for me to break out of it, is that it was about the joke. It was about the laughs per minute. That your goal was to get up there and hammer for 30 to 45 minutes and leave them breathless. And audiences now are very forgiving, and they want to know more about the person that's doing the jokes than the jokes themselves. And so I really admire that a lot of comics have been able to get, they've been raised to believe that they should be personal and take aspects from their own life. And I just am terrified of that.
Okay.
I don't want them to. I want to make fun of other shit and just pound away at it.
Yeah.
And so it's been a challenge to try to open up. And I have a feeling that I look a little archaic when you go up and you do 5 minutes of jokes about food or television or telephones or whatever or mobile phones. People are like, "What's a telephone? What's that?" Do you mean a phone?
When the last time we recorded the podcast here, you were working on like a really strong half hour. Yeah. And then you said, I've been doing this over and over and over again to try to get a Comedy Central thing.
Yeah. And well, I've given up on that.
You've given up on that.
I figure they'll come get me when they're ready, and I'm happy with where I am.
Okay.
So.
And I like the way you said that, like, from, I don't know, how did you say, from your era or from your time?
Yeah.
Like, what, I mean, you started not a long time ago, but at a very young age.
A long time ago.
Okay.
My first open mic was 1977. Yeah.
Okay, and it was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's over 5 decades of work in one area of life.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm a white, straight male, middle-aged, and I'm responsible for every shitty thing that's happened. And I admit it. I'll take it. Line up. I'll sit there with a thank you note, apology notes. Mm-hmm. Dear American Indians, sorry we fucked it up for you. Sorry about taking your land and shit. Love, Dwight, white male, straight, middle-aged. Send that out. Yeah. And next, let's line it up. Let's say, dear women, sorry about running your life and beating you. And it's just we have no one wants to hear a white middle-aged male anymore. We're tired of hearing your fucking point of view. And I agree. I agree 100%. So that's why I'm trying to kind of shift maybe a little bit and talk and try different things.
To be more make it more personal? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. And maybe to issue a voice that hasn't been heard. You know, because one thing that I disagree on is people go, "Oh, there's too much political correctness," and it's always white dudes that say that. It's never people of color or women say that. I mean, ask people of color, "Do you think there's too much political correctness?" No. Nah. That's something that white people have to deal with, not us.
Right.
And so I think it's a challenge.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like the way you're looking at that.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I understand my gender. I understand my demographic, and we have fucked everything up for everyone.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about? This might sound crazy. You ever thought about writing a book or writing something about what you've? I mean, because you've been through so many different eras right now, and you're not. I mean, you're calling yourself middle-aged. Fine, middle-aged. That's not old. You know, you still, if you want, can have this career can go on for a lot longer.
Sure.
You know, so it's not done being written, but there's a lot behind you. Have you ever thought about getting all that out there, like comparing the 80s to the late 70s to the 90s to now, to, you know, like all the things you've seen, the people that have come and gone, I mean,
Yeah, I've thought I write quite a bit, but I've never written quite from that angle. Maybe that's an interesting angle too. I prefer writing children's stories. No, I'm kidding. Well, that went in the wrong direction, but yeah, I think eventually a book of where I've come from would be interesting to people.
Yeah.
I found that when I moved and I put a post on Facebook, it got more reactions than when my wife and I got married. And I think it was because people like to hear this glimpse of what it was like in the 80s to be doing stand-up and ride that wave that was so new.
I'm telling you, Dwight, people want to hear that.
Oh, okay.
You have that in you. You got to get that out there.
It's a shame that I was stoned the entire time. No, I'm kidding. I was the opposite. I never did anything. I never rode that part of it.
No. And now you've left Portland, where pot was all over the place.
Yeah.
To Idaho, where I assume still illegal.
It's medical. I think they have the medical.
Oh, okay.
And, I think it's just a matter of time before the rest of the states go, there's money to be made here.
Yeah. I saw a thing that in Portland they're considering the next thing to be legalized might be magic mushrooms.
They do that in Amsterdam. You can get magic mushrooms. I think it's part of the thing that this is the only area where people have a voice now. It's like, I think that a lot of criticism about legal weed is that it's like, why are we arguing about our indulgences? You know, why do we have to have that? And the reason is because that's the only thing that we control is our bodies and our sexuality. That's why you hear people bitching about it. And bathrooms. It's like, what is the fucking problem? Just go in and pee and get out.
Yeah.
Don't what the bathroom is like the gym. You just keep your eyes down.
Right?
Pee. It's like, why are you checking out the junk of the tranny next to you?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said that, but the transgender person next to you. Just fucking go and pee and get out. Mm-hmm. I love that in other parts of the world, too. You'll walk in and there'll be an opposite gender cleanup person, and they're cleaning up around you, and there's no stigma about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're going to have to leave before I enter this room.
Yeah. So.
Did you see the... how old was the kid? I wrote it down in my notes here. The kid who... he dropped his last name because it was Trump, and he's been getting bullied in school. Have you seen this?
I didn't. That's very funny. That's very funny.
I'm gonna look up some more of the details here. But while I'm looking this up, another thing I saw on your website, it said performances in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. Is that in the future?
No, I did a tour.
You did it earlier this year.
I did it a year or two ago.
Oh, a year or two ago. Okay.
And, it was an outstanding opportunity. And there's a guy from Australia who puts together a group of mostly UK comedians.
Okay.
And then he invited me along. And the great thing about it was that I work with Gina Yashere, who is just...
She's so great.
So great. And to hang out with her and walk on the Great Wall and be able to listen to her. It was just a great tour.
I just watched. I've been catching up. Have you seen the Comedy Central show live from the Comedy Cellar? This show they have now. She was just on one of the recent episodes of that. Gina Yashere is really funny. She was on there, and Dave Fulton you got to work with on that thing too, right?
Dave Fulton, yes, one of the great, and he's an Idaho comic too.
Oh, is he really?
He is in Idaho. Yeah.
Jeez, it's been so long since he's been around here. I forgot about that. Yeah. I miss him. He was when the first couple of years I was doing the podcast. He was still coming to Acme. Oh, he's so good.
Oh yeah, I've not been able to see his set in a long time. So.
Oh, he is so funny. Yeah. So there's this kid. His name was Joshua. Young boy in Delaware, and the relentless mockery of his name became so unbearable he decided to change it. Trump began his campaign in the Oval Office. 11-year-old Joshua Trump found himself on the receiving end of endless childhood taunting. His mother, now I think mom may have some blame here. Mom, Megan Trump Berto.
Wow.
You know what they did here? They gave the kid the double. They couldn't decide on the last name, so he has both mom and dad's last names.
I get it. Yeah.
Could have just went with dad's last name, traditional.
Yeah.
Boom. No Trump controversy.
Yeah. Yeah. Hide behind the Birdo.
Right? Yeah. Can we
no one's going to challenge you on that.
Can we connect Birdo to anything negative? I don't think so. Yeah. So they thought his experience in middle school would be different, and it's not. So they then homeschooled him for a year to try to remedy it.
Oh man.
Then moved schools, put him back, and the taunting continued. So now he's changed his name.
Do you ever think about that? How bad your name could have been if your parents, when you were born, just loved the name Gilligan?
Yeah, right. Right.
Go through the rest of your life known as Lil Buddy.
I just found out the other day my youngest daughter doesn't like her middle name.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh. Not too...
What is the middle name?
Noelle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
you know what? She's right.
Why don't you just name her Santa? That would have been the same thing.
She's right.
But that's a sweet name.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, it's up to her.
When you say it like, the first name, middle name, last name, it sounds great together.
Right.
But just individually, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much. You know the Dax Shepard, the actor.
Mm-hmm.
You familiar with who he is? His wife is Kristen Bell, actress. I was reading a thing about them. They have a policy. They have children that are 3 and 5 years old. They have a policy where they don't lie.
Okay.
So the Santa Claus just came up, and they've been honest with their children and said Santa is a thing Mommy and Daddy make up.
Yeah, well, you can delete information and use other information and convey it to that.
Yeah.
It's like, is there a Santa? Some people think there is.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do you feel like there is? I've never personally heard Santa, but a lot of people tell me. I always wanted to tell my kids that there was, and I'm dodging around this area very, very tenderly.
Okay.
But because I wanted credit for the expensive presents I was buying. Like, oh, Santa brought me this. No. Santa brought you something else. Those little gloves that were $2 at the Dollar Tree. I brought you this.
Those $2 gloves that the elves made.
The Star Wars Lego set. I bought you that.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It's not in Santa's budget. It's not in Dad's either. But I got it for you.
Enjoy your Pocahontas doll.
So when I read that headline, I was saying it to my wife. I'm like, could you even? I mean, what?
Yeah.
It's the strangest policy I've ever. Last night on the news, they had a thing about. This is terrible. They're in Minneapolis at elementary school. The little girl ran into the school yesterday afternoon because a guy tried to abduct her. Yeah, I was like,
Jeez.
Super scary, right? So on the news last night, they're saying like, here's a little, friendly lesson or a good way to remind everyone, like kids, if you're at home and mom and dad aren't home, somebody knocks on the door. Don't say mom and dad aren't here. You say they can't come to the door right now.
Uh-huh.
It's a good lie.
Yeah,
it's a good lie.
Well, it is. Or just give them guns.
Just give them guns.
That's the way it is. Yeah. That's what the Trump kid asked for.
Josh.
Ding dong. Back off, please. Mommy and Daddy are napping.
That's right. So I just don't know how Dax and Kristen would handle the situation like that. No, well, if Mommy and Daddy are, well, I'm sure they have like a maid or whatever, in-home assistant or something that answers the door. So they don't have to worry about that, but pretend they did. No, just tell them Mom and Daddy are home. Open the door. Yeah. We need to be honest with everyone.
Yeah, no. Anytime there's extremism, there's an issue. And no matter which way you go, the pendulum goes, there's an issue if you're a little bit psychotic and you're pushing too far.
Yeah. Do you remember when when that magic was lost with your kids, when they figured things out around the holidays? Do you remember when? Or?
Yeah. It was like from age 9 to 11, I think they figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, they come and they realize there's nothing magical about this.
Yeah.
And but when I was a kid, I think I woke up in the middle of the night once, and I sort of a hazy. I could hear my parents, doing things, and I remember they had a stocking that had a jingle bell on it.
Oh, yeah.
So I woke up to bumping in the night and a jingle bell, and I was convinced it was Santa.
Yeah, of course.
And so I always said that when I was a kid, I heard things, and I told them what I heard. And I said, so, it's up to you.
Yeah.
And so
I remember going to my grandparents' house and as a really young kid for Christmas, and I to this day don't know where the sound came from, but I remember always hearing like ching chicka ching, like sleigh bells.
Seriously, is there two grown men actually debating about, I think there's a Santa? And I think he visited me when I was a child.
Only once.
Right.
It's somewhere my grandmother had a stereo speaker playing what was probably a cassette of sleigh bells, but I don't know where it was.
Okay.
I don't know where it was. So good job, Grandma Severson.
No laugh track, and also delusional. We are delusional.
Yeah, maybe a little.
Yeah. How's your Christmas shopping going?
Well, I don't have to. Like I said, I don't have to buy
right.
for my wife or kids. I do have my parents and sister have to get stuff for, and
I'm so far behind in Christmas shopping, I have not even made the friends to buy the presents for. That's a troublesome position.
No, thankfully we do it where people, and this is another thing, like just about like we started the podcast, I'm talking about, all the stuff we have, and most of it we probably don't even need. It just piles up somewhere. We have so many possessions, and then Christmas comes around and we make lists for each other. Mm-hmm. It's not even creative. It's not even like, oh, you put so much thought into this. We've given up on that. Like with my mom and dad, sister, it's literally like check my Amazon wish list, or I'm going to email you the lists, and just that's it.
Yeah.
How is that? It's depressing how not personalized that is at all.
Yeah.
Hey, you probably know where I got this. You probably know how much I paid for it, and I put no effort into thinking about it.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you for the thought, which I provided for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've always had a problem with that, but then people counter with, well, you don't want to get something they don't want.
Yeah, right.
And I agree with that. My brother and I, when we were kids, we used to wait for the school bus, and it took about 6 minutes between when we were eating to where we had to go out to the school bus. And in that 6 minutes, we would watch on TV, the old UHF TV, the old Popeye from the 30s.
Oh, yeah.
They had it on and they were hilarious. And I encourage people to look for these things, because the guy who animated the early Popeye was at the same time that Walt Disney was doing it. And Walt Disney did fantasy and princesses, and this guy did an element of animation that was in Depression era. He showed Popeye in Depression era backgrounds.
Oh,
empty lots, broke people. Wimpy was always begging for money, and the animator has gotten a lot of kudos since then. And I remember them as just being hysterical. With Popeye would always talk under his breath, and the amount of, and I guess he improv'd that, the actor who did it. And so I found there's a box set you can get of the early Popeyes from the 30s. And I was like, I got to get this for my brother. And so I wrapped it up, and I was so thrilled. He had no recollection.
Oh, no!
Of ever watching the Popeye. He's like, oh, this is cool. And I was
Why'd you think I want this?
And I was like, I thought I had found this treasure from our childhood. And I was realizing that's why people look at lists, is because of the disappointment.
Yeah.
If they open up a gift and go, I have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
So I'm being a little bit broad on this. He did eventually remember. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, we used to watch that, yeah. But
my dad's list included a belt. So that's
okay. Yeah.
Very creative.
Yeah, that's just sad.
Right? Like, what do you... Yeah. Have you been holding out? Like, I don't like to treat myself throughout the year. I'm going to make you buy it for me as a gift.
Yeah, you should go up to him and go, I thought you said belch. Sorry. My bad.
Yeah. I should show up with one from a thrift store because he likes shopping at thrift stores.
Okay.
I do too as well. Who am I kidding? I did a quick Google search of your old pal that we've talked about on the podcast before, Bill Hicks.
Uh-huh.
And they're doing a... Do you know anything about Richard Linklater doing a...
I did read that he's bought the rights to it. There's been a number of people who have bought the rights to it. Crowe.
Cameron Crowe?
Cameron Crowe was at one time had it. And he had the rights to it. And
who were they buying rights from?
The family.
Okay.
Or... I guess that's it, or because there are some books where you can buy the rights from the books to make a movie. I'm not sure how it all comes about.
Okay,
but it's always exciting to see people discovering my old friend and how much he has continued to be relevant, and the amount of influence he had is always very inspirational.
I mean. More right now, even more so than 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Isn't it crazy?
The themes that Bill talked about are still relevant. Stuff in the Middle East, stuff with the popular music, about show business and how ridiculous it is. He had not only a real introspective mind, but he also had this broad, I think, inspiration for longevity, and so it's just his brilliance kind of really has gone on.
Yeah. The article I read said that Richard Linklater, people know from probably like Dazed and Confused, probably one of his most famous movies, that he's from Houston as well.
Yeah.
And said his older brother went to... Did you know any of his family?
I don't know.
The article said his older brother went to school with you guys.
Okay, well, that's quite possible because the 70s in Texas was an interesting era because that's when everyone was moving to Houston. There was a concerted effort to make sure the petroleum industry was centered in Houston. So they built skyscrapers for Shell Oil, and my dad got transferred. He worked for Shell Oil for years. Bill's family got transferred. His dad worked for General Motors, and so there was this sort of this group of people who sort of reached the promised land of what they've always wanted, the American dream, which is to have their children have these beautiful homes in the suburban life. Why would you complain about this? And instead, you got kids that were like jaundiced about the soullessness of their lives, and that's what we grew up as. We thought it was just so wrong to grow up and be satisfied with this sedentary life and its acceptance of both religion and social mores. We wanted nothing to do with it, and we came across as ungrateful. And I suppose that's correct. We were. So, but our high school, for some reason, in a small amount of time, produced a lot of famous people. Clint Black went to our high school.
Oh, no kidding.
Kelly Emberg, a supermodel who married Rod Stewart, went to our high school, was in my brother's class. Craig James, who played in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
And went on to ESPN.
Yeah.
And it's never repeated itself. I don't know why this one period of time produced Bill Hicks.
Yeah. Everybody left town.
That's right.
and reproduced someplace else. That's what happened.
All right. We're through with this area. Let's move on.
Have you gone back recently to Houston? Performing at all?
Have not. No.
I have not. And I know one of the times we recorded, we talked about Bill, and you had just talked to his mom.
Yeah.
You still speaking to her on a regular basis?
I do. I call her on usually the holidays or Bill's birthday or Mother's Day, and she's just as great as ever. It's she's just so sweet. And, and I really get a lot out of it, and I think she gets a lot out of it.
I bet.
Yeah.
Have you thought about what he would say about you leaving Portland for Idaho?
I think about that a lot.
Do you really?
Because we moved into a suburb that's quiet, and the houses are the same, and it's like, what happened to the adolescent raging voice that I swore to as I was growing up? But I think as you get older, you become more temperate and accepting, and you do it on your terms, and I'm doing it on my terms. I don't feel a shred of guilt about it.
And who knows? He could have softened as well, right?
Yeah. Well, he in a number of ways he already had. He had, before he died, he got into astronomy, and he bought a telescope and would sit out. He went to Santa Fe, he went to Taos, New Mexico, and he loved that place. And, and wanted to just sit and look at the stars. So, but that's very much what Bill was. Yeah, he was a character from Huckleberry Finn. Very much.
That's a great way to put that. That's a great way to put that. Are you so you're doing shows here through today's Thursday through Saturday? Mm-hmm. Are you after the shows? You out there selling any of your DVDs, CDs?
I created a greatest hits CD that kind of culls from my 3 or 4 other discs.
Oh, good.
That I have, so people can kind of they don't have to sit there and listen to shitty parts of my comedy. They can just get right to the good parts.
Okay.
And then it has some unreleased tracks on it, so that you're getting some new stuff.
Oh, unreleased tracks. Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
How about the let's see, the special that I paid $1 to watch?
Did you really?
I did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How much of that $1 are you getting? No, I'm kidding. Let's talk about that. Earlier we talked about a Netflix dropping 1 million specials. Mm-hmm. Last week, Sean Patton was on the podcast. We talked about there were in January, like in one day, 47. Netflix is putting on 47 comedy specials across the globe. Comedy Central, I wrote this down, just announced that they're calling this coming January stand-up month to basically compete with Netflix.
Wow.
Where somebody like Nick Swartzen, for example, his new special is going to be on.
Sure.
And then there's this dry bar comedy where you and like Tommy Ryman and a lot of people that have been on this podcast that are Acme regulars have these specials and clips that are like getting seen by millions of people.
Yeah. One of my clips, 1.95 million views.
Yeah.
I just it's just unthinkable.
Did you see that coming?
Did not see it coming at all. I mean, these guys did good products. They do a 5-camera, very clean shoot. You can do any material you want to, but what they provide for people is they provide a way that you can watch anything. You can watch stand-up specials, you can watch movies, and they will take out the bad parts.
Yeah.
Which upset Hollywood, and rightly so. You can't play around with people's.
Yeah.
But then they realize, there's money to be made, and so they've reached a agreement where you can a service can be provided that you can take the bad parts out in your perception.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't need to describe them, people would be bored as hell. But there have been there are lawsuits going on between these companies and Hollywood studios and stuff because of the right.
It's called VidAngel.
Yeah,
it's two Mormon guys who have started this, and they're really great guys. They love comedy, but I mean that's where comedy was born out of. Is that their service was shut down by Hollywood pending a lawsuit, and so they had to create content. And they said, we'll just do clean comedy, and they've just produced mass amounts of these. Yeah. Half-hour to hour-long specials.
I think Tim Harmston, who you mentioned, I think he's got one. Mary Mack's got one. Uh-huh. Yeah, so many people.
Yeah. And it provides an opportunity. And in the meantime, I think they found a settlement.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Bent Washburn's got one. David Crow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not being part of the how do you describe it? Like the censorship community or the clean community. Without having those clips pop up on my Facebook, I would not know that exists. I wouldn't know that there's a system where you can watch, which I've looked now, and I know what you're talking about.
Right.
Where you can go on Amazon and watch a movie through their filter, and it'll take out the whatever you don't want to see.
Yeah, what I object to is I think that if you look at one of my the special, and it says this special contains some racial issues. I
saw that.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't think so. There really is no racial issues, and I feel bad getting that stigma.
Right.
And so that's what my one objection is, that by saying that, you create that. And so, look, I'm a white male, middle-aged, and I don't want to be anything to do with being referred to as a white supremacist.
Hell no.
I'm a Dwight supremacist.
If you put that on a shirt, I will buy it.
Good.
Please.
Good.
Dwight supremacist. Have you used that before?
I have.
Okay.
But not a lot, so thank you. Good.
No, but you haven't used that like on an album title or anything, have
Not
you?
yet.
No. Oh, that's that's so great. Do you have any interest in hosting the Oscars?
I think
Since we're talking about this,
I'm like third on the list.
Are you?
Yeah, so I'm keeping up. It'll be interesting.
It's crazy that last week, we usually record the podcast on Thursday. Before I was here last week, that news came out that Kevin Hart had been. He was going to host the Oscars, and then by the time I got home, he had stepped away.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Man, that happens fast. Holy cow, that happens fast.
Yeah, it's. I was interested in the situation because I went through an experience a couple years ago where I worked for this nonprofit, and I agreed to do stand up and also be the MC of this group, and I did some material about my neighborhood, which when I moved into my neighborhood, it was a rough part of town. And the joke is even the milk was in the 40 ounce. Anyway, I did the series of jokes, and a group of people who just were not going to accept that, insisted I do an apology, and I disagreed. I said I won't do an apology. I
was following along when this was happening on
quite
Facebook.
A wave. Yeah, it was, and this guy called me out as a white supremacist on Facebook with my picture.
Yeah, I know.
Just completely inappropriate.
Totally.
And so I wound up apologizing because clearly part of the problem was that I did not see who my audience were. This audience was taking people that were disenfranchised and giving them housing, and I'm making fun of the housing that they're getting.
Okay.
And, so I apologize, but I realize now what I'm apologizing for was not appropriate. But but I'm a comedian. All right. You hired me as that.
Yeah.
And what I later found out was the dude didn't know I was a comic. He thought I was a speaker or a professional MC. And like a lot of idiots in the world, just went knee-jerk response. I'm not going to take this. I'm going to take over the situation and partially ruin the evening. But on the broad side, they raised more money in that year than they had in previous years.
Oh, look at that.
And so I rescind my apology, and I stand behind the fact that you made your money. So
there's a silver lining if I've ever heard one.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that, so I'm glad you
it was it was probably one of the worst experiences I've had as a stand-up.
Had to have been.
Because I was emceeing this. I was introducing video of the organization. I was introducing the president of the organization, and I would get off stage, and these three people are shouting at me, going, "You need to apologize for what you said." And then I'm like, "I'm not going to apologize. You can fire me, and I'll walk out, but good luck doing your fucking show without an MC." And then I'd stop and go, "Oh, I have to introduce someone." I go back on stage, introduce someone, ask people to give money, and I go back off stage, and they're like, "You need to apologize."
Oh my God!
So finally, I finally apologized. I finally, look, if anyone was offended by what I said, I apologize. We're here to have a great time and raise the thing, and I apologize. Get off stage. Not good enough. You weren't sincere. And I was like, and then I had to go right back on stage and introduce someone, and I'm like, how is this happening? And then at the end of the show, I had to do a 45-minute set. And people are drinking, and there's a lot of talking because it got out that the people were upset, and it was just. But I slugged through it, and I was proud of what I did in my work, and I'm proud of what I'm not going to rescind anything what I said, Fuck them for not having the balls enough to accept a comedian that really worked hard for your organization.
Yeah,
that's my final answer.
Yeah, there you go. And now you've changed your, you've taken MC out of your bio.
No, a lot of work, and then of course, how this all ends. I moved to Idaho,
right,
which has one of the worst track records of white supremacy. And they're just, I'm sure they're going, see?
Of course he left.
So. Yeah, I realize that I'm not going to win in this situation.
No,
that's all right.
I guess not. All right. Well, I'm glad you were cool talking about that.
No, yeah. I don't mind at all.
Yeah, it's quite an ordeal. No doubt about it.
Well, here's the real weird part of this whole story was that after the show was done, we went and had a next door to this restaurant to get something to eat. My wife was very upset, and we were all upset about what was going on. I went to the bathroom, and as I'm coming out of the bathroom, I pass, I'm blanking on his name, but the guy from PBS that got nailed for Me Too, older guy.
Charlie Rose?
Charlie Rose. I passed him, and we looked at each other, and he had been doing a speaking engagement in Portland the same night. And it was just the fact that I later pieced it all together and go, what a weird way to end that, is that Charlie Rose and I pass and look at each other. And anyway. So.
Then you walked outside and there was a Kevin Spacey was on a billboard. You went home and
come on,
Harvey Weinstein movie was on.
Who's on the phone? Kevin Hart. Why? It won't end. It won't end. Leave it.
Oh boy. This is a good way to put. Let's put a bow on this thing. People need to come out and see your shows while there's still tickets here this weekend. I know we get a lot of groups in here.
Yeah, I think the Saturday's gone, but tonight and tomorrow, I think have a few spots available. And always looking forward to it.
Hell yeah! Social media, as we just talked about. Are you still enjoying social media? Should people follow you?
I think so. I've kind of been reinvigorated with social media. I'm going to make an effort to do one thing a day.
Okay.
I like Twitter. I think it's perfect for stand-up.
Yeah,
and
I like
think
it too.
You owe it to people to give a little something. So, you add me as your Twitter, and you'll get something funny every day.
At no cost whatsoever.
That's right.
Much like this podcast.
Right.
Thank you, Dwight.
Thank you,
Dwight,
Justin.
Supremacist. Supremacy. Thank you.